So this, of course, is the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. The Indian Prime Minister, in fact, performed yoga at the 9th International Yoga Day celebrations at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Now, the United Nations, remember, in 2015, it proclaimed the 21st of June as International Yoga Day and nothing less. So people from across the world are participating in this enormous celebration. The participants from 135 different nationalities took part in the event, along with the Indian Prime Minister, creating a new Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of nationalities who've taken part in a single yoga session. And these are visuals from the United Nations headquarters just from a little while back as the Indian Prime Minister took part in the yoga performance. And just ahead of the World Record Yoga Day session in New York, the Indian Prime Minister addressed the participants and underlined the history of yoga. The Indian Prime Minister also thanked the United Nations and the New York officials for helping them make this event a huge and a remarkable and an outstanding success.
Let us use the power of yoga not only to be healthy, happy, but also to be kind to ourselves and to each other. Let us use the power of yoga to build bridges of friendship, a peaceful world, and a cleaner, greener, and sustainable future. Let us join hands together to realize the goal of one earth, one family, one future.
And also the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke ahead of the Yoga Day session. Listen to what he had to say.
Ankles, legs.
I want to recognize Prime Minister Modi for all he has done to promote understanding of yoga and its many benefits. Yoga unites. It unites body and mind, humanity and nature, and millions of people across the globe for whom it is a source of strength, harmony and peace. In a dangerous and divided world, the benefits of this ancient practice are particularly precious.
And participants from well over 180 different countries observed the celebrations with the Indian Prime Minister in New York. The Yoga Day program is being held at the North Lawn, was held at the North Lawn of the United Nations headquarters. The 9th International Day of Yoga event in New York saw participation from the top UN officials, envoys from across the world, and many prominent individuals. And every year, the theme of International Yoga Day centers around a specific aspect of yoga and also its impact on society. And this year, it is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which translates very simply as the world is one family. It is also the tagline of your channel WION, where we say the world is one. Now, yoga symbolizes the unity of body and mind. It is viewed as the harmony between humanity and nature, and also a very holistic approach to health and to well-being, based on spiritual and physical well-being. The values of yoga form a major part of Indian ethos, and this is something that has been practiced in India from time immemorial.
One more breath, breathe in.
And also to give us more perspective in terms of how all of this is, of course, played out today at the United Nations headquarters, we're being joined in by our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live from New York. Susan, this of course is a big moment, isn't it? The Indian Prime Minister there led the Yoga Day, International Yoga Day celebrations within the complex of the United Nations. And yoga is such an important part of Indian ethos, and now this has gone clearly global, and the Indian Prime Minister has been pushing for it.
Yeah, those are all very accurate statements, considering the fact that we really saw this soft power tool play out with Prime Minister Modi spearheading this event today. But not only that, but in 2014 making it, the UN designated International Day of Yoga that we saw being praised by all the dignitaries who had the opportunity to speak at this event. And one of the reasons for that is, as Prime Minister Modi noted, it's a tool to bring everyone together on the one hand, the practice of yoga, but on the other hand, to remind perhaps a very turbulent world and a divided world that unity is possible in some aspects. Prime Minister Modi will have plenty of time here in the United States to talk about global tensions, about the differences, perhaps even between the United States and India during this state visit as he heads to Washington. But he chose to start his trip to the United States with a message of unity, solidarity, and what yoga stands for, inner tranquility. And I think that was demonstrated here at the United Nations today.
Absolutely, indeed. Do continue to stay on with the season. My colleague Molly Gambhir is also joining us from New York. Now, Molly, yoga for so many Indians is such an inherent part of our lives. This is something that pretty much every Indian, right from the time that they are young, they practice yoga to such a great deal. There's something that's also a part of the school curriculum across many schools. And now this is clearly going global. Yoga in India has been practiced from time immemorial. The sages in India had practiced yoga hundreds and thousands of centuries ago. And now this is something that is clearly the Indian Prime Minister who is now taking the ancient practice of yoga to the rest of the world.
Indeed, yoga is India's gift to the world, Sally, and that I think summarizes what the International Yoga Day celebrations have been all about. The significance of the fact that the Indian Prime Minister has led those celebrations at the United Nations headquarters, and given the fact that he was the reason behind International Yoga Day even getting institutionalized, and his role in pushing forward yoga as a way of life has been recognized by dignitaries, by world leaders over the years, and which is a part of the reason why yoga is synonymous with India. And, like you said, all people from all walks of life have made yoga an inherent part of their lives in large numbers, and the popularity has only been increasing, and we've seen that for ourselves over here, Sally, because we've seen the number of yoga studios that have sprung up across New York, not just here, but across the United States. And given the kind of events that have been arranged in India, around the world, to mark International Yoga Day, just tells you how far along the very concept of International Yoga Day has come about. But I also want to talk about how the attendees who have been a part of this event have been telling us that the experience has been incredible in terms of engaging with people from different nationalities. Of course, the Guinness Book of World Records, the Guinness World Record for the most number of nationalities practicing yoga in itself is an incredible feat, as they've been telling us.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed to Molly Gambhir and also to Susan Tehrani for joining us and getting us all those updates from New York there. And we also earlier spoke to Ambassador Ashok Mukherjee, India's former envoy to the United Nations. He was in fact at the helm of affairs as India's permanent representative at the United Nations when the Indian Prime Minister back in 2014 had asked the United Nations General Assembly to declare the 21st of June as International Day of Yoga. He told us as to how all of this came about to be, and also the role of China and India and the ties between the two nations have played in the adoption and the pushing of this proposal. Listen in to what he had to say.
The proposal was adopted in 75 days. It was made on the 27th of September, and the General Assembly adopted the resolution on the 11th of December. In between those 75 days, we had to strategize on how to implement the Prime Minister's proposal, because before he made the proposal, no such idea had come either into the United Nations or even within the government of India. And therefore, we had a clear field. It was a challenge and an opportunity. What we did was to use the opportunity for two things. One was to locate the proposal inside an existing process in the United Nations, which was the negotiation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we put the proposal under the goal of global health, which today is a Sustainable Development Goal of Agenda 2030. The second thing that we had to do was to network to get the proposal adopted. It required a majority, which meant 97 countries had to agree out of the 193-member General Assembly. In order to get to this figure of 97, we decided to reach out to the developing countries. And if you remember, in the United Nations, there's a group of developing countries called the G77. Now, we were negotiating the sustainable goals together as a group, and therefore that gave us the opportunity to get our first co-sponsor from the G77 and China. And China and India became the first co-sponsors of the proposal on the list, after which the other countries followed.